another episode of That's Business. Today's guest is the founder of Artena PLLC, where Karolina partners with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and creatives to navigate the legal and strategic decisions that build scalable and sustainable businesses. She also serves on the board of FAR Therapeutic Arts and Recreation, a nonprofit providing creative and recreational therapies to individuals with disabilities. Ooh, we have a lot to talk about today, my dear. So first and foremost, did you always know you wanted to go into law, or what was childhood like growing up? Tell us about that if you feel comfortable.
One, you have a great podcast voice.
Oh, thank you. I love that.
So you started the intro and I was like, oh shit. Okay.
I turn it on, I guess.
Yeah. Did I always know I wanted to go into law? Absolutely not. So when I was little, first I wanted to be an artist. I don't quite know what that meant. I got into piano I started playing when I was 4.5, but then really didn't fall in love with it until 6th grade. And then that's when I started competing, and I did summer camp up at Interlochen. And by the time I got to my senior year of high school, I had orchestras that were asking me to play with them. And I had big dreams and aspirations of playing piano for a living. And then a couple of hand injuries / what's the diplomatic way of putting this? I think I was just really burned out because I had spent years and years of just practicing, and I don't think there was adequate guardrails around me to make sure that I could also just be a kid. And so that dream ended. And the whole reason that I even got into law was, one, my mom's like, you should go to law school. And I was like, I don't know about that. But when I was in college, I was in a speech class, and that's when we were working on some speeches, and I forgot what the topic was, but I ended up talking about my middle sister who has disabilities, and she's 2 years younger than me. And that was the first time that I had really dug into and understood what my parents went through raising a child with disabilities, specifically with the special education system and all that. Because up until that point, I was just like, well, this is my sister. And I knew that there were challenges, but I was also just a kid. And so I had this moment where I was like, well, this is fucked up. And it would have been great if my parents had representation that helped them navigate the school system. And so I was nearing the end of my college career. I knew I didn't want to go in the direction that I had gone in with internships and whatnot. And my mom legitimately was like, you should go to law school and we'll pay for it if you go right away. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to be a lawyer, but I could be a special needs advocate, and they are going to pay for it. And it also buys me a couple years before I have to be a grown up.
Right.
And so, for being honest, so yeah, it was just one of those things where studied-ish for the LSAT, did well. And it was just like, it just kept falling into place where I did well on the LSAT. I applied to law schools. I got in, I got a couple scholarships, and I just fell into it, really. And then my second or third week of law school, one of my professors, she would take all the students out to lunch in mini groups. And we went, and I pulled her aside on the way back, and I told her that I had this dream of being a special needs advocate. And what did she think? And her response to me was, well, unless you want to live in a box on the side of the road, you may want to think of a plan B.
Thank you for the honesty, right?
Yep. And I'm like, shit,
oops,
we're here. And I didn't go to law school for the money. I didn't really give a shit about that. But there was a desire to be able to afford an actual roof over my head. And so, yeah, so that dream, I won't say it died, but it got put on the back burner until I figured out a plan A, which it wasn't until literally my last semester of law school where I figured out, oh, I love working with business owners and working in transactional business type legal matters. And eventually, you mentioned FAR, that's how I scratched the itch of working with people with disabilities and kind of fell into that. But that also, we do creative arts therapies. So there's a lot of music involved, art involved, things like that. So I got to I guess, vicariously live through our clients when they're performing, and there's that creative aspect there, while also being able to provide like more legal assistance to the organization. So it all kind of worked out. But long story short, no, I did not think I would go to law school
Absolutely
when I was
not.
little. I was adamant that I did not want to be a lawyer. And my mom was like, oh, well, it's fine. There's so many people that have law degrees and it just opens the doors for you to do other things. And I'm like, great, well, I won't be a lawyer. And then I became a lawyer.
And then I became a lawyer. Why were they Why was she pushing lawyers? Is she a lawyer or any lawyers in your family?
No, she
just
wanted so my mom, I think it was her dream. I know when she came to the States, my parents are immigrants. And so
Yes.
she came to the States, and English was a second language. And so she went to take the LSAT. And not only is the LSAT designed to be difficult from the way that they wordsmith things, she was also doing it in a language that was not her native tongue, fresh off the plane in the United States. And so she failed the LSAT, or just did not do very well, period. And so I think it was one of those things where I think it was her living vicariously through me, while also knowing that it would set me up for, hopefully, more stable life.
So you graduate law school, we go work for other organizations. I mean, how long until, because you just started your business. So I want to hear that kind of end of life. And then when did we finally say, fuck it, we're doing our own?
So, like I said, at the end of law school was my last semester, was when I was like, oh, I really love business law. It made sense. My dad's an entrepreneur. I grew up around like those conversations. My dad is always somebody that had all these different ideas of different like businesses that he could start and whatnot. And so it was always staring me right in the face. But then I took taking the business law clinic at Wayne and then a contract drafting seminar, like the practical classes, for me to be like, oh, this is interesting to me. So at the time, the business clinic was partnered with Bodman for a like mentor-mentee program. And my future boss was my mentor. And I sat down with him and I go, okay, I didn't really have any interest in big law when I was in law school. I was like, man, that sounds like a grind. But at the same time, I was really interested in the work that his group did at Bodman. And so we asked him to get lunch with me. And I said, okay. So I didn't do the summer associate programs. I didn't do any of that. But if I wanted to get into your group one day, how would I do it? And so he gave me the roadmap, and it was, types of firms to look for, types of jobs to look for, et cetera. So I ended up landing at this small law firm that did real estate and construction law, and they did both litigation and transactional work. And the transactional work was the part that I was interested in because I wanted to get experience in that. And also the real estate and construction was different from all the other like personal injury, insurance defense type firms. So did that for a couple of years. When that was running its course, I reached back out to that former mentor and I said, hey, lunch, knowing full well that they had an ad up on the website because that group was hiring. And so got lunch with him. It was a long process from the time that we got lunch until I started at Bodman, probably about 8 months. Because,
wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
So, because I didn't lead with the fact that I knew that they were hiring, but yeah, I think that was October 2017. And then I started at Bodman July 2018. And so ended up in big law, but I was in a group that was designed very much like a machine where they manned it enough and everybody was trained in order to do the work where anybody could sub in and out. People could actually live their lives. And there wasn't this environment at the time of like overworking yourself. And it was great. And then that ran its course as well, just in terms of, I think as much as I tried to make it fit, the reality was I was never going to be satisfied or fulfilled working within a large corporate type environment. And in that group specifically too, leadership changed and, we lost some people and COVID happened. And there was just a lot of things that led to the wheels falling off a little bit in terms of how the group was being run. And so once I hit that wall, it was March of 2024. I was in Chicago on St. Patty's Day weekend, as one does. And I woke up in my friend's apartment and I just had this moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm not the problem. Because again, some things had happened and I was like, I got to get out of this. Like, this isn't the right fit anymore. And that same day, my then boss also sent me an email that was less than kind. And yeah, it was just like really poor timing considering I was already thinking like maybe it's time to get off the ship. And I cried in a bar in Chicago next to a leprechaun.
Good story.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
so as one does.
As one does.
And it took a couple more months, but I ended up meeting with a mentor of mine and I was just telling him the challenges I was having and where I wanted to go and all that. And he said to me, he goes, would you ever hang up your own shingle? And I go, absolutely not. Like, there is 0% chance I would ever open up my own law firm. I know what people have to do in order to do that. Like, I don't want to go back to litigation. Like, I was just adamantly against it because like I didn't want to have to work on matters that I wasn't interested in, or I found soul sucking because like litigation is just not for me. I have wonderful litigation co-counsel and I'm happy to be there to talk strategy, but litigation
It ain't it.
So
Yes.
I ended up landing at a firm that a couple former big law partners founded. And it was meant to be a firm where attorneys don't have to kill themselves and you can build the book of business that you want and you can work on the cases that you want. And you don't have all these rules in place that some committee of attorneys that have been there since 1932 have made. And like, you have to like live by that. So ended up going there. And honestly, the intention was to stay there, to build my book of business there and just stay under that umbrella because, again, I had no interest in
We're seeing
my
a
own
theme
law firm.
here.
Yeah, yes, I am also seeing a theme. And it was a really good bridge opportunity in terms of, I think there was a lot of things I had to unlearn from big law in terms of like how to lawyer, how to present as an attorney, how to do business development. Everything was made out to seem a lot harder than it actually is. And there was a shift at the start of this year where I was meeting with a potential new client and I just showed up and I was like, I'm so tired of the fronts that attorneys like feel like they have to show up with. And I just showed up very authentically. I think I was in a hoodie.
Gasp.
and and we just had a really lovely conversation. And at the end of the conversation, this client said, I've been with this other firm for years. I want to move everything to you. And I was like, okay. Like, shit. Because the thought had never crossed my mind that I could take client work from some large, well-established firm. Like, who am I? And it was in that moment, and there were other moments along the way too, where I realized that I could just show up real. And I've always been relationship driven in my client relationships, but there was the shift that happened where as I built my book and I built those relationships and I thought about how I want clients to feel with me, there was this realization of how law has just failed clients in terms of making them feel stupid or, everybody, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients that they're so scared of getting that bill. Like, they're scared to call you because they're worried they're going to get that bill for point one or point two. And like, there's just so much. And I understand why those systems are there and why those things happen. But I just got to the point where I was like, I want to make sure that clients feel taken care of from the moment that they meet with me or have any interaction with the law firm. And hopefully that they never leave the firm. But even if they do, up until the end, there's a level of care and intentionality and feeling safe and heard. And I don't know, like there's an actual like relationship being built, right? And for me, I always tell clients when they first talk to me, like my ultimate goal is to build a long-term strategic relationship with you. Because yes, I am a lawyer, and yes, I have the training, and yes, I have the ability to break down concepts and approach them from a legal standpoint. But I have that business background, and I have especially now, I can think strategically and think more from a solutions-oriented standpoint than just like, here's what the law says, and like be a robot and not actually help clients or help them, but in like a way that they end up with a bill that is far higher than it needed to be.
Yes.
And, and so the firm that I was at, I realized that the way that I wanted to take care of clients wasn't going to happen with the machine that they were building, because it was a newer firm and there were still kinks being worked out and whatnot. But I was just at the point where I'm like, okay, I know I can do this. And also I realized that I had spent so many years helping others build their businesses and like talking through business strategy and business vision setting, et cetera, with clients, that I was just like, why don't I just do it for myself? And I had that same mentor who had asked me if I would hang up my own shingle. I called him in a moment. His name's John. And I call him SOS John because every time I'm having an existential crisis, he's the one I call.
SOS
And
John.
so I called him after I had this realization of like, shit, I don't think I can deliver to clients in the way that I want to at this firm. And he goes, Karolina, you put yourself out there as being the attorney that can help clients scale and grow their business. And I'm like, yep. And he goes, so why don't you scale and grow yours so you can actually like show them that you can do it too? And he's like, how much more credibility will you have? And if you haven't done it for yourself, do you think they're going to listen to you? And I'm like, John, I'm going to hang up.
I'm done with you, SOS John.
Yeah. But he was right. Like it was like a wrecking ball just like hit me across the head. And I was like, fuck, like I have to, we have to do it. And yeah, it was just like, once I made that decision, everything just fell into place in the wildest way possible. And then when the day came where I stepped off the ship of being an employee, I mean, I was set. Like clients are there, and yeah, it's been a really interesting and rewarding and fulfilling like give and take relationship of like my clients give to me more, I think, than I give to them. But then at the same time, they still keep coming back to me and they're like, hey, like we want to be in this with you for the long haul. And they're like my greatest brand ambassadors, which I'm like, shit.
People like me.
I must be doing something right.
Something, right?
Something. So
what are the scale of issues? Because as small business owners, I mean, businesses in general, there's so many issues. I mean, what is the scope of what you primarily help your clients with?
Oh God. I mean, so I don't know if you want to call it a niche, but the types of clients that I like working with primarily are the ones that are in some type of growth phase. Whether it's, I have businesses that are just starting out and they come to me and they're like, I have this idea. Or I have clients that are still in that like small business phase, but they're looking to actually grow and scale. Or I have large corporations where they are looking at doubling revenue or whatever it may be. And so with each of them, I mean, each one has its own challenges or things to think through or sophistication or whatever. But what I like to do when a client comes in or when I realize that they're now at that inflection point of, okay, we're ready to level up, that's when I sit down with them and I say, okay, tell me where you want to go. And ultimately, it's where that person in the room, like what they want their life to look like. And then from there, we can reverse engineer what the legal issues are, what the legal roadmap is for what they need to do, right? So, if somebody's coming to me with a brand new idea, depending on what that vision is, maybe we're looking at trademark searches, right? Like if they're looking to be a really large company, well, we want to protect the branding from the get. I have really amazing IP co-counsel that I work with to make sure like, hey, you're not going to get a cease and desist from somebody in Colorado that is doing, a similar thing. It's basic stuff like where it's like the entity formation, the governance, things like that. But then as they scale, it's also looking at, okay, well, what do your vendor agreements look like? What do your customer agreements look like? In what areas are you taking on risk that you're not thinking about, right? Like for me, if clients get really excited about like large customers, but they don't think about the implications of what taking on that client could entail. So for example, if you're working with a large enterprise customer, like a large bank or I don't know, a Coca-Cola or an Amazon or whoever, these are all companies that I worked with or negotiated with when I was at Bodman. And I know how seriously they take things like security and audits and just other like operational things like that. So my job then is to say, hey, I'm here to get the deal done, but also let's think about the implications of this. Let's think about how we can mitigate risk. Let's think about what you can actually take on. And so it's a lot of that. There's always employee things to consider, IP ownership and making sure that clients are actually protecting their assets, things like that. And it goes all the way out too. Like I have a client right now, they've been in business forever and the relationship between the two partners has broken down. And so it's okay, how do we navigate getting them out of that, but in a way that keeps the business afloat and doesn't overly spend money on legal fees and they can go off on their way and maybe hopefully one day resolve that relationship. So I always say to clients, my job is I'm effectively the legal quarterback where you come to me and you're like, I have this issue. And I'm like, great, either I can do it or I'm going to figure out how to do it. Or I have this referral network of co-counsel where I'll find somebody else who can do it. Right. Like I mentioned litigation before, like, no, like I will get you to the point of working through demand letters and trying to resolve the dispute before it gets to litigation. The moment it gets there, here's this really amazing litigator that I know. Right. So it really runs the gamut of whenever a business owner is making a decision or they need help with something that's, I don't know, they call me. So
the quarterback lawyer. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
As we wrap this up, you've given so much great advice and just such great insight. I'm so happy we got to meet. But what advice do you have for listeners?
So in all of this, the mantra that honestly led to all this, and I say this all the time, and I have clients now who will reach out to me and say, yeah, I thought about how you keep saying this, like this is your thing. But a year ago, I was sitting at lunch with a mentor and I was telling her about my concerns with, I just didn't think that I could build a book of business. I was just scared of it. I thought it would take years. It did not, which was great. We're very grateful. But one of the things, she looked at me and she goes, Karolina, I need you to remember that fear means go. And
that's good.
yeah, it's super good. And it was one of those moments where it's really scary to grow. And it's really, really scary to go after the life that you want. And you can see this all over Instagram and whatnot, but it does cost you the life that you had. And I was comfortable. I was uncomfortably comfortable being an employee. I was comfortably uncomfortable getting a salary that was far less than what I was making the company, but, paid my bills. I was comfortably uncomfortable not being the one responsible for making the decisions that could ultimately tank the firm or ruin a client relationship or whatever, right? And there was just this moment where I had to get really honest with myself about, well, why was I staying in that comfort zone and where did I want to go? And I had a day where I think it was maybe April. I have a room in the back of my house that I was going to paint and I eventually painted it, but I just went in there and I just started mapping out everything that I want in life. I took a Sharpie and I just wrote. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I kept writing for months. And I got super, super, super clear about what I wanted in life. And I've since painted that room, but I've also I now have huge Post-its that are covering the walls where I keep doing it. Like I can't, like that room is just, I call it the creation room. It's going to be that for a while. But, it's one thing I think I always say, like, step one is like, you have to get super clear on where you want to go. And that's why I start relationships with clients with these discovery sessions where I'm like, tell me everything. Like, tell me what type of lifestyle you want to have. How many employees do you want to have? How much do you want? What type of revenue are we looking at? Do you have other business lines that you want to incorporate? Things like that. Because once you are super, super clear on where you want to go, you can then reverse engineer it and create the roadmap, which you will have to iterate over and over to get to that point. And once that's there, there's just this moment of, well, shit, now I got to do it. And so for me, step one, get super clear on where you want to go. And step two, when that fear comes up or that discomfort comes up, or there's like, oh shit moment of like, are we going to take the leap or are we going to revert back? Which is fine, right? Like I reverted back countless times. There's a peace, I guess, in a knowing that fear is normal. And the clients that I work with, whether it's I'm talking to a CEO of a $400 million company or I'm talking to just like a small mom and pop coffee shop, that fear is always there. It doesn't go away. There's always discomfort. And so if you really want the thing that's on the other side of that fear, it really is just fear means go. And it sucks, but it's also so rewarding on the other side of it.
That's incredible. Fear means go. That's a good one.
Fear means
on
go.
A shirt right now. That's great.
That's what listen. Merch line coming.
Stay tuned. 2026. Drop it here. Amazing. Well, if you're listening to this and you want to work with Karolina because she's absolutely incredible, head to the show notes and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.